one of the surest ways to make money in the UK or generally in the West is through the real estate industry. And wherever you pass on the internet, there is some property genius teaching, people how to invest in the real estate market or do some sort of thing to earn money. And many of you have actually been requesting that I record a video on, Airbnb, rent, and all of that. And that is why it gives me a lot of pleasure that today I've got a very good friend and one who has actually done it, tried it, and succeeded at rent-to-rent scheme. And so in this in this interview, we'll be talking about all you need to know about investing or getting involved in the rent-to-rent scheme. So, Edmond, I'm really happy to have you, honestly.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here as well.
Yeah. So today we've got nearly 10,000 people watching us,
That's interesting.
Yeah. So what is rent to rent and how did you get involved? Actually, I'll let you flow for a bit so that,
Okay.
I'll come in when necessary.
Right. So rent to rent is a very strategic property investment approach where you lease a property from a landlord and you sublet it to other people or to other tenants and you generate income through the rental margin. So say a landlord puts a property on the market going for 50 quid. You approach the landlord, you tell the landlord, I want to rent this property, but then I'm not going to live in it. I want to rent it to other people. The landlord gives you his permission. So you furnish it or do some minor upgrades and you rent it to other people. So now the landlord gave it to you for 50 quid. You are giving it to other people for 100 quid. And the rental margin is now 50 quid. And that is your profit, basically. So that is just a summary of what rent to rent is. And even before we go further, I'd like to state that it is very important to note that in the context of rent to rent, an explicit permission from the landlord is a prerequisite.
Mm-hmm.
You need a permission from the landlord. It is not your property. And you don't have to lie to the landlord that, oh, I just want to rent your property and go live in. Meanwhile, you have other plans for it. So, because if you do that and the landlord finds out, it could expose you to a lot of legal actions if he decides to take you on.
Actually, let's get into that. I think for most people, the most difficult part is actually finding the property to rent in order to also rent out, because most landlords say no. So how did you go about it?
That's very true, and that's one of the challenges when it comes to rent. Actually, finding willing landlords to give you that property. And I mean, it makes sense. I have a property, I can rent it out to people and make money from it. Why should I rather give it to you?
Exactly.
For me, I think it was the business plan.
You need to tell them that you were once my tenant,
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, but then it depends on how you craft a business plan, something very convincing, or the convincing factor for the landlord to say that, okay, I'll give my apartment to you. So it's all about trying to come up with something that will be convincing enough to let the landlord know that, okay, if you give me the property, you can be assured that your property will be well managed, it wouldn't be destroyed, and that I'll be giving you updates and all of that. So the landlord issue is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to rent. But then if you are able to...
Yeah, how did you go about, persuading your first landlord to give you their property?
Okay, so for me, I start with exploring online platforms like spare rooms and open rent, specifically open rent. So in my case, I first had the property or the apartment that I was moving into myself. So I was in this and I came across rent to rent. I had another property that I had to move into, and as at then I had really built a strong relationship with the landlord, and I told the landlord, I'm moving into another property. Would you be willing to this approach or this business plan that I have where I'll rent this same apartment to someone else and give you the same money you need from me? And I'm sure as we go along, I'll stay there, but the strong relationship you have with a landlord actually determines if you're going to get an apartment. So because I had a good relationship with him, he said, give me just a day or two because that was his first time doing it. And now after 2 days, he was like, okay, well, I know you've taken good care of this property since you came in. So I know you do well with that. And that is how it started. So how you relate or communicate with the landlord also comes into play. Since then, The other method I've been using to reach out to landlords, like I said, open rent, you'll be able to see landlords actually posting their properties themselves. So sometimes I'll just go on there, I'll see their names. Sometimes you even see their contact. If I don't see their contact, I'll just message them, hi, can I please have your contact? And then once I have it, then I'll give them a call and I'll let them know, oh, this is my plan, this is what I want to do. And then we take it on from there. And I would say out of 100 calls you make, probably 5 will be willing to listen to you in the first place. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's a challenge, I must say.
Then it means you have to persevere.
Yes. That is, you really need to keep trying.
And for those who agree, do you have to pay them, say, a 6-month or a 1-year rent, or how does it work?
Okay, so I would say that one is dependent on the business plan or the convincing factor I mentioned earlier. So if you want to tell the landlord that, okay, I'm going to give you a year's rent in advance, just so you have the assurance that you'd have your monthly rent. You could also be 1 year and all that. So with the first property I got that I was moving out, when the landlord was like, okay, fine, you can do it, he asked me, what if you don't get people to move into it or someone to live into it? How am I going to get my money? And I saw it was becoming an issue, and I told him, okay, to give you that assurance, I'll give you 6 months rent, so that you know that for the next 6 months, you don't have to worry about getting someone in or not. So it's all part of the things you can. They don't request for it because by law, no landlord should actually request like 6 or a month here. But then if you can add it as one of the convincing factors,
incentives,
that would be great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And since then, how did you then, find someone else to rent it at a higher price? Because let's face it, if this place is renting for 1,000 quid and you have rented it from another landlord and you are subletting to someone, that means you should definitely charge more than 1,000.
Right.
So who do you find who is willing to rent it for, say 1,500, for example?
Okay, so in that manner, I would say also understanding the location or understanding the local market dynamics is very key. So I would use Glasgow, where we are based, for example. Here in Glasgow, you have lots of students coming in around September and in January. So around that time, everyone wants a place to lay their head, and not just because you want to take advantage of the situation. So you are just mentioning any price just because people. I do my best to make sure that whatever amount someone is going to pay is actually worth it. So I make sure I fully furnish the place, put in lots of things, flowers. Sometimes I do paintings. Sometimes I change the lights, buy new beds, blenders, and all that, just so that the person can know that they are having their money's worth.
So I see. You rent an unfurnished place at a reduced price.
Exactly.
Then you furnish it and then you put the premium on it.
Exactly.
And to be fair, I've seen some of your properties. They are absolutely, beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful. And I would definitely pay for that. Okay. Let's talk numbers. How much are we looking at? For each property, how much are you making?
I guess so in terms of profitability, I would say when it comes to profitability, 3 things come into play. The location, the demand, and most importantly, the property. If you get a property that is not well situated or in a good place, you don't expect to mention a certain amount for someone to just come for it. So in terms of investment or profits, it actually varies. Sometimes you could be making, just say, 100 quid of a property. Sometimes
a month.
Yes.
But that's not bad.
That's not a profit is a profit. As long as you are not losing, I guess that's fine. But other times too, you could actually make more than that. I mean, there's been cases where I've made more than 500 quid on a property
per month.
Yeah, per month.
Wow.
And the landlord actually knows what I'm doing. And
wow.
He's happy with it and all that. And so I would say it's profitable, but mind you, any business where you make profits, you can also make a loss. So in as much as you can make profits of this, you also need to be careful because you can actually lose as well. And I've been in that situation whereby, like I said, here in Glasgow, demand is in September and in January, where September I had over 50 people wanting to do viewing. I gave it to some people. Now these people come in, their school now has some vacant student accommodations that their school is providing. So now these people won't come in at the end of February. They're like, I'm moving out to a student accommodation in March. Now I'm going to lose profits or I'm going to lose money because around that time you're not going to get people,
new students,
lots of demand and all of that. And around that time I think I lost a lot of money because from March down to like July, August, I had to pay the landlord from my own money. And someone would probably say, is it that you didn't get people to move in? To be honest, if you want people to move into the property, you get it. But mind you, I am just managing someone's property. I wouldn't want someone mismanaging my property. So I wouldn't do the same to others. So it's not about just finding someone to stay in just because you want your money. I want to take care of someone's property as well. So
that's good.
If I'm not finding students, which is by target, it's fine. You make money, you lose money. I'd pay from my own pocket. So profitability, it's on the brighter side. I would say is good considering the profit you make, but mind you can also lose some money.
I guess if you were desperate, you could find someone to move in to at least even pay the rent so that you don't charge them a premium on it. So
that's true.
You always have that option. But I like the idea, where you mentioned about location, the type of property, and then the local market, because you really need to understand the local market.
That's very
This
true.
week I spoke to someone from London who is thinking of investing in Glasgow, and my question was, how well do you know the Glasgow market? Because as long as it's booming, you wouldn't be managing it from London.
Exactly.
You need someone local to manage that for you.
Just because it's Glasgow doesn't mean you need to find any property in Glasgow. Because if you find a property in, say, East Kilbride or G78, which is a bit far from the city center or from where schools are located, you are not going to get students moving to a far place just to take a bus, which is going to take an hour or more to get to their school. So location really plays.
I guess it depends on what the person's also target is. You were focused on students because student accommodation pays anyway. But if you are focused on local people, perhaps the margins won't be that much, but at least you could be guaranteed that every time you get people.
And I think, I would say the target or the kind of people you are looking for would actually also, or the kind of people you are looking for plays a huge role too. Because if you go and get someone who moves into the property and this person is a local and the person isn't paying rent, and now you want to move the person out and the person is like, okay, from the Scottish law you can't evict me, you need to give me this month's notice, 3 months, 6 months and all that, you are going to be in a trouble. So
that's what I was actually coming to. What then is your liability apart from losing money in terms of who takes responsibility? The person goes to the house, thrashes the place, does not care for the place, the place is messy. Who bears liability?
Okay, so just like you renting a property, you do pay a deposit. So when I get tenants coming in, I actually sign agreements with them that there are certain things, if caused by you, you are going to bear the cost. And recently I had a situation like that where one tenant, the least thing, she will call me, oh, this is broken, this is that, and all the time I was actually taking that cost upon myself, but I realized this person was taking advantage of it, and I was like, fault caused by you, I'm not going to do it. And I made the person know that if it's something caused by you, you have to bear the cost. So if it's something, say you break the blender or you do something and the microwave becomes faulty, I would come and assess the situation, and if it's something caused by you, most of the times I would do it outright, because for me, I want the people to have their peace of mind. So I'll do it, and when they are paying the next rent, they would rather add it to it.
Right. I know we are talking about rent to rent. Do you prefer this to, say, buy to let, or what do you think about other property investment approaches?
So just to be, I like to state the difference before I move on. So when it comes to rent, or the main difference between rent to rent and buy to let is ownership. In rent to rent, you don't own the property. You're just leveraging someone else's property to make some money. But in buy to let, you are actually you need to own the house or purchase the house with the main purpose of direct rental income. That is the difference. Now, In terms of which one to go for, whether rent to rent or buy to let, I'd say it depends on where you're coming from. If you are someone who just wants to know about the property market, or you now want to just know how property market is or get into real estate and all, I would say rent to rent is a best start, or it gives you a quicker entry into the property market with a lower financial commitment, because you don't just want to get into something and lose all your money. So it gives you a quicker entry with a lower financial commitment. And to be honest, when I entered into rent to rent, I've learned a lot of things about properties and managing properties and all that. So I would say it's a good starting point. And again, I know that, please correct me if I'm wrong, I know that buy to let isn't very straightforward. There are certain conditions you need to meet.
So you're right in the sense that if you buy your first property as a buy to let, you lose the first time buyer stamp duty benefit. So I guess, a smarter approach would be to rent. You don't own the property. You still keep your first time buyer status. And then when you are ready to buy your own property, you get all the benefits there are with, being a first time buyer.
That's true. And again, you don't have anyone going to check your credit score to see if you can afford it. So like he always talks about credit, that will also come in when you want to go into buy to let. So I would say if you are someone coming up or someone who wants to start or get into the property market, this is a good start and will actually help you get into the property market. And for me, one advice I actually give my friends is that it would be best to start with rent to rent. The profit you make from rent to rent, you save it up and you use it as a deposit for your first house or even for a buy to let property. So it's a good starting point, I would say.
If you're getting value for this video, can you give us the like button so that we can reach a lot more people? And if you've not subscribed to this channel, kindly consider subscribing. Edmond will be in the comment section responding to your questions. So if you've got any specific questions for him, please do let him know, or I'll direct you to his contact. We're coming to the end of our conversation, but any regrets so far?
I would say that in anything that you actually benefit from, you'd also lose from. So in terms of regrets, I would say yes. Number one being losing money when you don't get people moving into the property or tenants moving into the property. The other one would also be effectively managing tenant relationships. That will really, really give you a headache. And that has been one of my regrets, because I never thought I would be managing people, doing this one calling you tomorrow. That is also a regret I've had. And I think the last one would also be familiarity, where people that you actually think are very close friends, you tell them this, and now they get there, and I mean, some may even want to move out with a day's notice and all that just because they know you. And I would say that that isn't too
I keep friends away from my business. I mean, it will mess it up. And I guess in terms of it being a form of income, you could use, self-assessment to declare taxes. And but one thing I've actually not considered, can somebody on a visa actually do this?
I would say if you have the right to stay, or no, let me say if you have the right to rent, I believe it now comes between you and the landlord, because if the landlord can actually give the place, he checks gov.uk website and he sees you are legal, you can say, I believe you should be able to.
I was thinking in terms of where they say you can't do more than 20 hours and all of that, but I guess people can seek legal advice, on that, whether they're allowed to. But I mean, finally, what advice would you have for someone, many of my viewers who are thinking of actually getting into this? What would you have to say to them?
So before I even go on, I would say thorough research is key. You need to research for yourself. Don't be deceived by people on social media telling you this is the easiest way to make money, so buy my course and I'll teach you how. Do your own research, try to find out, speak to other people before you actually get into it. So again, one of the advice I'll give is that build strong relationships with your landlords. Like I said, if you build a good relationship with a landlord, when they do get another property, they would actually give it to you. I've spoken
you had someone who gave you another property.
Exactly. Like I said, that two of the properties I'm managing is from the same landlord, and the second one was just because. Actually, the second one, he reached out to me and he said, Edwin, I have this property. Would you want to manage it? So I had a call with a landlord here in Glasgow, and during the conversation, he made it known to me that he has about 18 properties here in Glasgow. But then, as at that time, none were vacant, so I didn't get. But imagine if you come across a landlord who has lots of properties and you manage just one well, you build a good relationship with him. If another one becomes vacant, he will just call on to you. So if you build that good relationship with him, it will be very good. Secondly, like I mentioned earlier, you need to comprehend the local market dynamics. You need to know when it will be in demand, out of demand, just so that you don't waste money. That is also key. Yeah, I would also say you need to craft a well thought out business plan. Just so you can have a convincing factor to be able to convince a landlord to say that it will be better if you give me your property for me to manage for you or to do this business. So that's the last one. And well, before I even go on, I would say that you can't undermine the presence of a mentor. You actually need a mentor. And to be very honest, I came across rent to rent doing a session with one of my mentors, and he did mention that this is one side hustle you can do alongside your job and other things. So you need a mentor, someone who can actually direct you on the right path and all.
Actually, we didn't talk about this, but based on how much you are earning from rent to rent, do you think it could replace your income from your normal job?
For now, I'd say no, but in the next 2 to 3 years, I should think so.
Oh, wow. Wow. He's a big man over here, Yeah, because your normal job pays good, man.
But I mean, again, it depends on, let's say if you are managing about 10 to 20 properties, and on each property, you're just making 100 to 200 quid. That's some good money. So I think the more properties you get, the more you can make, and it keeps building.
Thank you so much for coming to have this conversation with my 10,000 subscribers. If you've got any question on this, put it in the comment section below. Edmond will be there to respond to you specifically. And if you want to reach out to him, do let me know. I'll find some way to connect you to him. If you want him to mentor you too, or or you want to write a book and have a course on this, but I'm so proud of what you've achieved, and we are doing very well. I want to be like you when I grow old.
Oh, no, I want to be like you.
Thank you very much, brother. God bless.
You too. God bless.
That's our video for today. Until the next one, God bless.